Talk New Orleans Saints. And thank you for taking the time out to check out this live stream or check out this video if you're not watching it live. And I want to say I really do appreciate it, man. And I hope everybody is being safe out there. I know there's a lot of craziness going on right now, because of this pandemic known as the coronavirus. But still, man, football, won't be affected by it, in my opinion. I mean, there's so many things that we can discuss when it comes to football. We can talk about the NFL draft. We can also talk about, just free agency. And that's something that I want to discuss here on this show. I want to talk a little bit about free agency because as of right now, we have some teams that actually signed some players. We see that Ryan Tannehill got signed by the Tennessee Titans. He got $118 million and $62 million guaranteed. So, man, shouts out to Ryan Tannehill, man. I got a lot of respect for Ryan Tannehill. First and foremost, the reason why is because Ryan Tannehill was one of those quarterbacks that were just written off, and he was one of those guys who nobody just expected to do anything. And then he goes to the Tennessee Titans and he resurrects his career and did an outstanding job, man. And I think he deserves his money, and congratulations. And this is one of those situations, man. I'm not comparing him to this quarterback I'm about to name, but it's kind of similar to Drew Brees. Drew Brees was a quarterback that the San Diego Chargers wrote off, looked at him as damaged goods, looked at him as a quarterback that wasn't going to be a franchise quarterback. So they decided to go with Phillip Rivers. And, he goes to another team, which is the New Orleans Saints, and the rest is history. Now, I'm not saying that Ryan Tannehill is going to replicate what Drew Brees has done. I doubt that very highly. But he is a very credible quarterback, man, and he has shown that you can indeed win with him in the lineup. I mean, the Tennessee Titans got all the way to the AFC Championship game, and you can say that it had a lot to do with Derrick Henry, but Ryan Tannehill still made some throws in that game, in those playoff games, that you can say that he deserves his money. So I want to say to him, congratulations. And, there's so many other players out there. Calais Campbell ended up getting traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Baltimore Ravens. Seemed like the Ravens are really trying to make a run at the Super Bowl, man. Calais Campbell, we all know what type of player he is. He was awarded the Walter Payton Man of the Year this past year. And, he's an outstanding leader off the field and on the field, man. About 6'8", about almost 300 pounds, big physical guy. And he's up there in his 30s and he's still wreaking havoc. So got a lot of respect for Calais Campbell. He was one of those players that the Arizona Cardinals looked at. They thought that he was damaged goods. He ended up going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was a leader. And that's what the Baltimore Ravens is going to get. They're going to get a leader, a guy that can be an anchor, and a guy that can pass rush. So so many storylines, man. But I'm going to go ahead and start when it comes to the Saints. I'm going to talk a little bit about Xavier Rhodes. Now, I asked a question on Facebook. I asked a question about Xavier Rhodes, and the question was, should the New Orleans Saints consider signing Xavier Rhodes? Now, the very easy answer to this question is no. That's what people will tell you. They'll say that Xavier Rhodes, he burned toast. He's not as good as he used to be. Them roads been closed for a very long time. That's what people will tell you. But I am going to make an argument that the Saints probably are going to end up getting Xavier Rhodes. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and get a chatter shout out, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start with the chat. So Jasper, the very first person to submit a chat, thank you very much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you very much, man. Sheets, thank you very much. Robert, what's going on, man? Man, shouts out to Robert, man. Robert, man, great. Man, he's a great, man. He does music like really, really well. He sent me like 4 tracks. And I have to say, man, he's a very gifted individual, man. Shouts out to Robert, man, and always a loyal viewer of the podcast, and I really do appreciate that. Dalton as well, man. Shouts out to Dalton, Jonathan, Derek, they always here. Jerry Poor, of course. Shouts out to everybody in the chat, man. And also, man, let me know how I sound. Let me know if I fixed the sound issue. I made a few tweaks to the page, so let me know if you guys can hear me well or you still hearing me kind of distorted. Let me know that, okay? So I'm not sure. I don't know these type of things until I go live. That's when I find out if you know if the quality is good and everything. I kind of count on y'all to let me know that. So let me know if the sound sounds good. You can understand me. Just let me know that. Let me see. Let me see some of these questions. Hope everyone is safe. Yeah, me too, man. Shouts out to everybody out there, man. Y'all be safe out there. Hasn't been the same since the injury. Sound is good. Thank you, Kelly. Sounds fine. Better than the other day. Thank you. Do I still sound far away? That's what I want to know. Do I still sound far away, or do I sound, sound like I'm in the background somewhere? Okay. Well, as long as the sound is good, man, I'm just trying to get it as close to perfect as I possibly can. So thank y'all. But let's go ahead and start a little bit about Xavier Rhodes. Let's go ahead and start with this, man. And I just want to say about Xavier Rhodes, I'm about to make an argument that he's probably going to end up with the Saints. Now, people can say that he's not what he used to be. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, man. I mean, I think his year in 2017, that was his best year when he was like a first-team All-Pro, and he was out there locking people down. But he ended up getting injured, man. And the thing about Xavier Rhodes, he is bigger than most cornerbacks. He's 6'1", 215 pounds. Most cornerbacks that you see probably would be 6 feet, 6'1", but they're probably in that 190, 200-pound range. So he's like a wide receiver masquerading as a cornerback. So when he ended up getting injured, messing up, getting knee injuries and stuff like that, I think it kind of slowed him down. But I still say that he is a good cornerback. I just feel like you might have to change him up from being on the outside to the inside. And I think the New Orleans Saints are probably going to end up signing Xavier Rhodes. And I know people are probably saying, man, that's crazy. But if you look at the New Orleans Saints and you look at the Minnesota Vikings over the past few years, you may have noticed that the Saints and the Minnesota Vikings have been, making deals. The Saints have been signing former Minnesota Vikings. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, right? Former Minnesota Viking, even though he went to the Jets, but he still played for the Vikings. Latavius Murray, Nick Easton. They even had he didn't work out. Sherrills was signed by the Saints. So there was 4 Minnesota Vikings that end up going to the Saints. So that tells me right there that the Saints like the Minnesota Vikings players. Also, you have to understand that Sean Payton's best friend is Mike Zimmer. So Mike Zimmer and Sean Payton talk. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have a conversation about Xavier Rhodes. They're going to have that conversation. And I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Xavier Rhodes end up being in New Orleans. And I would not be surprised if the Saints don't end up signing back David Onyemata, that they don't try to go after Linval Joseph. Do not be surprised. I mean, these Minnesota Vikings players have been with the Saints for have been making deals with the Saints for a long time. And I just think that has a lot to do with Mike Zimmer and Sean Payton being friends. I think there's a lot to do with that. I'm not ready to write off Xavier Rhodes, man. I'm not ready to write him off yet. Of course, he's not what he used to be. If he was what he used to be, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. He'll end up getting signed, probably to a long-term deal, probably paid one of the highest cornerback contracts in history. But, I mean, that's just what it is. But I think he is better than Eli Apple. If it came down to it, which one would I sign? I would sign Xavier Rhodes before I signed Eli Apple. At least Xavier Rhodes is a physical corner. Eli Apple is not that physical. And even though Xavier Rhodes doesn't really catch those many interceptions, he doesn't have really good hands. Eli Apple doesn't have really good hands either. So you have a bigger, more physical cornerback that you probably can line up in a slot, and he'll be able to bully some of those players. I mean, you have to look at people like Williams, right? PJ Williams suck on the outside. I mean, you put him on the outside, straight burnt toast. But you put him on the inside, he's a good tackler. He's able to bully the smaller receivers that's in the slot. So I think if you put somebody like Xavier Rhodes inside, I think that you will have somebody that can be physical and also beat up on some of those smaller wide receivers. And I think that might be a recipe for success. So, I'm not ready to write him off just yet. I think that he would be a really good fit with the New Orleans Saints. And, that's just the way that I feel about it. I think that he would be a good fit. And don't be surprised if the Saints end up signing him or Linval Joseph, because history has shown us that the Saints like signing former Minnesota Vikings in the offseason. Okay, they had 4, but now they had 3, at the beginning of the season. So they like Minnesota Vikings players, and I think it has a lot to do with the friendship between Zimmer and Peyton. But also Drew Brees. Let's discuss Drew Brees. Drew Brees has decided to take a hometown discount. How much, we don't know just yet. I'm pretty sure he's probably going to take between $24 and $25 million in order for the Saints to try to go and get some free agents out there. Wouldn't surprise me that, the Saints get what they consider a bigger time free agent, like a Logan Ryan or something like that. Don't be surprised if the Saints try to, get some guys like this, because I think they understand that the window is starting to close and it's desperation time for the team. It is desperation time for the New Orleans Saints. So they're going to try to pull out all the stops in order to win or try to get to the Super Bowl at least. So I think the Saints are going to do everything they possibly can in order for them to make that run. But let me see what you all have to say. Miss y'all and miss the games. Hope everyone is staying safe out there. Tier 1, thank you. I hope you're staying safe as well. I do miss the games. It's crazy, living life without sports, period. I think they had a UFC event. They had a UFC event on, that's probably the only thing. But the only problem is they didn't have a crowd. They didn't have a crowd at all. So that was the only issue with that. But, just living life without sports is just straight up weird. Like, absolutely 100% weird. I don't know, man. I've never been in this type of situation. I don't see how ESPN can stay on TV. You look at Fox Sports 1, they cancel like all the shows like Undisputed, The Herd, all that. They're not allowing these guys to come to work at all. So I don't understand how ESPN can do this. I don't see how they can stay afloat. But I hope everybody is being safe out there. If we can get him for the cheap. Kenny Sutton, I agree. He's not going to get no big time deal. He has not performed well over the past few years. So, you probably going to sign him, at a reasonably good price. I don't think you have to break the bank for him or anything like that. And I think he comes in and be a contributor to the team. Kelly said, did the Saints cut Apple yet? No, they didn't cut him yet. I don't think the Saints really made any moves yet contractually at all. I don't think they, negotiating any new contracts or anything like that right now. I think all of these contracts are in negotiation as of right now. Tier 1 says, man, they better not keep Apple. His mama ain't playing. Man, I don't know if they're going to keep Eli Apple or not. This is going to be probably a tough decision for them, because I think, the players that you trade for, you don't be in a hurry to try to cut them. That's the only thing that's kind of working for him. The Saints ended up, making a trade in order to bring him to New Orleans. So I think when you're looking at guys like that and you look at the circumstances, teams try to keep the guys that they actually trade for. And he did struggle, man. Later in the season, he did struggle. There were a lot of issues with Eli Apple. His confidence dwindled. His mama was out there speaking for him like she was the female LeVar Ball. I didn't like that part. I think that he suffers with his confidence, and I think his mom is too involved in his life. And I think that plays a huge role. He's a mama's boy. He's a mama's boy. He let his mama fight his battles instead of him fighting his own. And I understand, he's not a guy that can go to war and talk about you on social media. That's not him. But I do want some rough riders, man, some dogs on the field. And every now and then, like when he was playing, really well, I seen him like and talking to wide receivers and stuff like that, like in a Tampa Bay game. This was before he was struggling. He was out there jawing, talking to Godwin. He was talking to Mike Evans. He was really, walking with a swag, so to speak. And then all of a sudden, after that Chicago Bears game, that's when it all went downhill. That's when you start to see his confidence dwindle. And I think that's what made him suffer in New York. New York is a huge market. They're cutthroat. They don't care what you think. They don't apologize for being who they are. And they really don't, excuse my French, but they don't give a damn about you. They just care about results. And if you're not giving them results, then they're going to kick your behind up out of the door. And I think playing for the Saints kind of helped them because unlike most fan bases, we're a little bit patient when it comes to the players. Like, if a player does something for the New Orleans Saints, I think we give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, if they come through just stinking it up all over the place, then, our patience kind of well thin on those players. So I think that kind of helped them. But the problem is when he's doing good, his confidence is high. But when he deals with any type of adversity at all, he suffers and he gets in his own way. And honestly, man, this is a tough league right here, man. People don't have time to babysit you. People ain't got no time to be, hugging and telling you great and all that kind of stuff, And you got your mama on Twitter, who I feel like be trying to live vicariously through him. I have a huge problem with that. Like, I feel like his mom be trying to live vicariously through him. She's always trying to be the center of attention. Like, even when he first got in the league, she was like, trying to, be a media person and stuff like that, like riding his coattails. I don't like that kind of stuff. I understand, moms make sacrifices for you, take you to those games, pay that money for you to be a part of these elite, Pop Warner football teams in order for you to get the best training and, get the best coaches with you. I get all that. But at the same time, this is not her dream. This is your dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the one that put in that work. And I think that she needs to get out of his way, allow him to be his own man, and he needs to speak up for himself. Until then, he's going to continue to have these problems. He's going to continue to suffer, and his confidence is going to continue to dwindle until he decides that Eli Apple is going to be his own man. And I'm not going to allow things to get in my way. I'm going to have amnesia when I make bad plays. I'm not going to let it linger from week to week. And until then, he's going to have the same problem. And eventually you're going to start getting older, and teams aren't going to have that same patience because you're not 24, 25 years old anymore. You wake up and you're 29 and 30, and teams are going to be like, man, I can get a younger cornerback that plays much better than him and has way more confidence. That's a fact. So that's my spiel on Eli Apple, man. That's my biggest issue with him, straight up. Let me stroll down to just a tad bit here. I apologize if I'm not seeing any of your chats and stuff like that. I'm trying to stay relevant and trying to stay with the topic. All the schools in South Carolina are closed, TJ. Yeah, I know, man. They actually had a case that just happened today in Myrtle Beach, where I'm located, man. Somebody tested positive for the coronavirus, and also at my former alma mater, Jackson State University, somebody tested positive, man. So, man, it's making its rounds, man. And, man, hopefully we'll be over this soon. I'm just kind of over this. I don't know, man. This particular pandemic is bringing out the worst in people. Man, humanity has a really huge problem, and it has a problem with consideration. I'm seeing people run into stores and buying up all the tissue and not even thinking about the next person behind them. People running, fighting over stuff and it's not even like the media or the government has told us like everybody have to stay in the house. I don't get it. Like, you can go out here and get tissue anytime you want to. It's not like you're, confined to your house or anything like that. But like I said, it just shows me like we have an issue with humanity, and I'm just kind of over this. Like, honestly, like, we need to show more love to each other. We need to show more consideration to each other. And that's a huge problem in our society today. And this situation right here has told me, and honestly, I'm not trying to minimize the magnitude of this. We never seen anything like this before. But I will say this. We got to get better as a human race. Knocking people over, You know what I'm saying? Like knocking people over, being cutthroat, not worrying about the next person. Got about 3 people in your house, but you buying 4 and 5, 12 packs of tissue. Like, come on, man. Give me a break. Like, we gotta show more humility out here in this world. And I can't wait for this stuff to be over, man, because the human race is leaving a bad taste in my mouth right now. I know this don't have nothing to do with sports, but I just had to mention that because somebody, because Derek was talking about schools being closed, and that's related to the virus. Apple straight trash, stop protecting him. He washed that. Why New York let him go? Too soft to play for my city. Sparrow, I'm not protecting him. I'm just telling you what I see. I never said that they need to keep him. I said that most teams, when they trade for a player, they try to keep him. I mean, so I don't think that's protecting him. I don't know, man. Like, I don't feel like that's protecting him. But I did say what I feel like is wrong with him, and he needs to fix it. Who should the Saints cut? The ones not who are not free agents. To be honest with you, I don't think there's a player on the Saints team that I would cut right now as far as, the production or whatever. I don't think there's a starter that the Saints have that is, that's not a free agent that I would cut. I would keep them. Man, we got to keep in mind the Saints went 13-3. This is not like we talking about an 8-8 football team. And honestly, if the league didn't have this anomaly that was 13-3 teams, the Saints would have had a first round bye, and who knows what would have happened, in that divisional round. So it just happened, man. It was just a weird circumstance for the team. I think we just have a bad taste in our mouth because of how we lost and where we lost, and I get it, but this team was still 13-3, and they had back-to-back 13-3 seasons. So it's not like they were just god awful or something like that. Like, we got to keep that in mind. I know we tired. I know we frustrated about how the playoffs has ended the last 3 years, but it still was a 13-3 team. Keep that in mind, folks. Michael Thomas needs to stop talking on Twitter. 6 anomaly. Michael Thomas can say whatever he wants to say. When you have 149 receptions, 9 touchdowns, and you lead the league in yards, you can say whatever the heck you want to say. That's just the way I feel. Me personally, I think we put too much stock in these players, man. Like, who cares what Michael Thomas have to say? I like Michael Thomas, but who really cares? Like, I don't care about his political point of view. I don't look at, honestly, I never want to meet my heroes. I never want to meet them. Like, that's just a fact. I give y'all a prime example, okay? I am a huge wrestling fan, okay? I like wrestling. One of my favorite wrestlers was Rob Van Dam. When I was 17 years old, I got an opportunity to go to New York, and I was in the airport. I was at JFK Airport. And it just so happened that wrestlers were flying, on a plane or whatever like that. So, they had some downtime. So I'm in a food court, and lo and behold, I see Rob Van Dam. And I'm excited. I'm like, wow, man, Rob Van Dam, one of my favorite wrestlers. So, I go up to him, and, I asked him about his autograph. He was like, I'm trying to eat, man. Very cold or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so I walked away. And after he was finished eating, I'll give him this. After he was finished eating, he called us over, me and my friend that was with me. And, he gave me a card. And on the back of the card, it was already pre-signed autograph of his. And the card was for his comic book shop out in San Francisco. And I was thinking, like, God dog, what I'm saying? Like, this dude, don't even want to, take the time to take my pen and just sign a piece of paper that I have, And, there's been several other celebrities, like Erykah Badu, Ruben Studdard, so many celebrities that I've met, they just left a bad taste in my mouth. So me personally, I don't want to meet anybody that I like, because I feel like you're going to walk away from having a really bad experience. That's just the way that I feel about it. The only celebrity I ever met was this guy by the name of Boris Kodjoe. Some of y'all probably remember him from the Soul Food, and he was on a Tyler Perry movie one time. That's the only celebrity I ever met that was really extremely nice and kind. And I met quite a few celebrities. So, but back to Michael Thomas, like, who cares? Like, I don't look for him for political advice. I look for him to catch footballs. I look for him to catch touchdowns. I understand like that whole more than an athlete because they're human beings at the end of the day. I mean, they can go on social media and rant all they want to, just like we do. So why are we so caught up in what these guys got to say, and why what they have to say change our minds about them? Who cares? Like, honestly, who really cares? I don't care about what he says. I don't care about his political views. I don't care about that kind of stuff. I just care about his production on the field. Okay? And, all that stuff about people like, I was seeing people saying stuff like, man, I ain't no fan of you no more. And come on, man. If you are going to allow a person's personal views affect the way that you feel about them, like, you weren't a fan of them in the first place. And I mean, I don't get it. Me personally, I just don't get it. I don't look for celebrities to do nothing but what they do on the field. Let's see. Apple's confidence is gone. Go draft a cornerback. Yeah, his confidence do look kind of gone. Roderick Williams said, I work at JSU, man. You be careful out there, man. My dad went to JSU back in the 70s. Man, a lot of JSU people in there. JSU coldest drum major in the USA. Yeah, man. The Jackson 5. Shouts out to the Jackson 5. Shouts out to the Sonic Boom of the South, man. One of the baddest bands in the land, period. Yeah, some of the people out there doing some low-down things, man. Saints should cut Andrews Pete. They don't need to cut Andrews Pete, my friend, because he's a free agent, and he's not coming back to the Saints. I'm pretty confident on that. I would cut P-Rod for more cap space. Invictus, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about Patrick Robinson, man. You're absolutely right. I would definitely cut Patrick Robinson. I forgot about that. Thank you very much. That's a good point. We scored 40 points in December and went flat in the playoffs. Yep. That's exactly what happened. And the crazy thing about it seemed like the Saints was reaching a stride like towards the end of the season, only for them to lay an egg in the playoffs. Keep Apple, keep Jenkins in the draft, and draft a cornerback to challenge Eli for the slot. Good logic, good thinking, but keep in mind, man, like if the Saints try to sign the Eli Apple back, why would you try to sign him to a multi-year deal or something like that if you're going to just end up cutting him in the first place? That's just a waste of money. And honestly, man, I hate to say it like this, but that's not fair to him, man. If you're not sold on him, then let him go. Let him go find somebody else that he can, play for, and that will invest in his talent. If you're still not, bought in to Eli Apple, just let him go and draft a cornerback. Never ask anyone for an autograph while eating. It makes people very upset. I've seen it before. Tier 1, you're probably right. And, that's the reason why I say, I give him the benefit of the doubt. He called us back over after he finished eating. But, just the whole business card and your autograph on the back, man, come on. Like, I'm not down with that. I'd rather not even have your autograph. I'm excited about this football season coming up. Football games and more playoffs. I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm excited about it too. To be honest with you, Sparrow, I don't know if this is going to take place this year because they said they have up to 2023 in order to let the 17-game season go in effect. So they could possibly play a 16-game season and start next year during the 17 games and the expansion of the playoffs, because there's still some unanswered question when it comes to the playoff positioning. Will the number 1 seed have an additional playoff first bye week or something like that? Like how are you going to position these games? There's so many unanswered questions with this. So it's still a possibility. They can, fix the language and the verbiage and get everything straight by this season. It's a possibility, but there's a strong possibility they might end up making this go into effect next season. But the contracts and the royalties and all that kind of stuff, the players get that stuff right away. So shouts out to them, man. Shouts out to them making the right decision, in my opinion. I think they made the right decision, especially for the player that's struggling, that don't make Drew Brees and Cam Jordan like money. I heard Boris was cool. Yeah, Boris Kojak was extremely cool, man. Him and his wife. I think they both were mad cool. Great people. I met Ted Danson in the Vineyard. Cool dude. Yeah, man. I mean, every now and then you'll meet some cool celebrities, but unfortunately, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that experience. But like I said, I just never want to meet my heroes. I just don't. I rather have my own thoughts about that particular celebrity and just leave it at that. That's why I guess I'm not really big on going to concerts and contracts and autograph signings and stuff like that. I'm not really big on that kind of stuff. I rather watch you from a distance. Let's see. Teddy B is a natural, cool as a fan. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, cool, man. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, he really embraced the city. I have a friend of mine, him and a couple more of my homeboys that, I went to school with. They was out there at a pickup football game, and they was out there just throwing a ball around. All of a sudden, on a bike, come Teddy Bridgewater. By himself, in the hood. I think he was in the 8th Ward, rolling through the 8th Ward on a bike, and went out there and was throwing a football with those dudes. Like, man, Teddy Bridgewater, like, he a solid dude from what I see. You don't get that, you can't fake that type of stuff. Opinions don't hold weight any damn way. Why should we care? Yeah, honestly. That's just like, I do this podcast, some people might agree with what I'm saying. Some people may not, but at the end of the day, I just give my opinion. Just like we all do. Like, you can give your opinion about a team and, it's your personal opinion. You might spend like 20, 30 minutes debating your opinion. You know what I'm saying? And it don't make your opinion like any wrong or anything like that. It don't make it not have any validity. It's just your opinion, So I just don't understand like why people just get red hot over a person's opinion. Like, I understand that we want to be right. And honestly, I'm not even trying to throw stones, you know what I'm saying? Because for a long time, I lived in that glass house. Like, I couldn't take criticism. I could not take criticism. When I used to see people criticizing me, man, I couldn't take it. And, now it's like I embrace it more, but back in the day, like, man, somebody gave me their opinion and I didn't agree with it. Like, I would try to fight them to the death, trying to convince them that I'm right. But now it's like, well, we're not going to agree, and I'm okay with that. But you learn from that. But it comes from not wearing your emotions on your sleeve. Not wearing your emotions on your sleeve is very, very important when you approach any situation. Conversations and communication and dialogue needs to be about learning. Okay, this is what I learned from doing interviews at the radio station, from interacting with people. If you have a conversation with someone and you didn't walk away from that conversation any better, then you just wasted your time. Okay, that's just a fact. That is why it's very important for you to give your opinion and not just be ready to talk after that person is finished. That's why that's so important, because you end up learning a lot more about a person by just listening, and you learn a lot more about yourself from absorbing that information. And honestly, you might end up not agreeing at the end of the day, but that's okay. But you learn, a little bit more about that person, and you might have learned a little bit about how a person stand and what made them get to that point. So just always be able to be an effective listener. That's very important. Eli got no confidence. He's been bullied against guys with above average speed and footwork. Yeah, his confidence comes and goes. It comes and goes. And I think that with Eli Apple, when he's riding that wave, man, he does it better than anybody. But when he falls off that surfboard, man, and he splashes into that water, it's hard for him to get back on that surfboard. It's hard. I hear Keanu Reeves and Hugh Jackman are really nice to fans, and Hugh is a Saints fan. Yeah, man. Like I said, there's some nice celebrities out there. I don't know, man. I just, like I said, I just don't want to meet any of them. The playoff format will start this season. The 17-game season will start in 2021. Okay, Wyatt, thank you very much for that information right there. If that's the case, then, I'm for that. I'm happy to hear that. I was just looking at the ESPN report.